You can't hear me. Now you can hear me. Can you hear her?
Hi.
Yes. Okay, they can hear you, but I need to make sure that they can see you. So give
Okay.
me 1 second.
Then I have Beekman in back of me.
All right, here we are. Who's that?
That's Beekman. She came with that name many years ago, but
Cool. And it's a
she's
blue and gold, right?
it is blue and gold. So she's a special bird. I'll tell you a little bit about her in a bit if you were interested.
Yeah, no, please do.
So Beekman, Pandemonium started off as a rescue many years ago, more than 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And we got a call about a bird that was in trouble.
Okay.
It was Bay, and I went to pick her up, and it was Beekman. Beekman had been in a very small cage for 17 years. She had never been taken out. She had never seen the sun. She was being fed peanuts. And so she was quite ill
Mm-hmm.
and brought her home. And her nails hadn't been trimmed. So they went round and round the purse. She couldn't even walk after we trimmed them. We
Yeah.
did a
Oh,
little
jeez.
bit. And it turns out when we just recently had her at the vet and looked at her band, and it turned out she'd been wild caught.
No
And
way.
yeah, she'd been wild caught. Somehow had ended up in Pinole, a humane society where she'd been adopted out to this person who really loved her. I mean, he didn't mistreat her because he didn't love her. He just didn't know what to do, and he
Right.
was a little bit afraid of her.
Right.
So that was, I think she's been with us about 10 years, and she talks, she dances, she
I can hear
sings.
her like mumbling back there.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
she calls out hello. She screams when I don't go to her soon enough. She's quite the love. She still has problems with her feathers. She's plucked in the back, and we haven't been able to fix that. But overall, she's a great bird. She's wonderful. Very kind
Cool.
of loves to be petted.
Do you have a lot of macaws?
We have three macaws, so we
Okay.
have a pair. When they're one of them is featured in the book that I wrote about the birds of Pandemonium.
Cool.
He's quite a character.
Nice.
But
How is the audio for you guys? Can you hear her okay and hear me okay? Is it like balanced? Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. All right, cool. Just making sure. So Michelle, thank you so much for coming on here. This is so cool. I'm so excited to talk about all this.
well, I'm
Um,
excited too. Thanks for having us.
yeah, of course. Can you tell everybody about what Pandemonium is? I mentioned it a little bit. I tweeted about it this morning or a few minutes ago, but yeah, so what is it that you guys do?
So for we've been around for a couple of decades, but for the last 10 years, we have become a living species bank.
Right.
And so, like, there are seed banks that safeguard seeds that are around the world in case for some reason they go extinct.
Uh-huh.
That's what we do with very special species of birds. They are becoming more and more rare and are both becoming extinct in the wild and very rare in captivity. So many years ago, we decided that you see Beacon's dancing right now in the back a little bit. We decided that we would function as sort of a Noah's Ark. You know, nothing fancy, just
Yeah.
taking pairs of birds and keeping them, letting them raise their own families, building up large genetically diverse flocks, never selling, never trading. Once a bird was here, they and their offspring will always be kept in safety,
Mm,
and building up some of the world's largest flocks of these very important birds. And
that's
we've been doing
awesome.
that now long enough so that in some cases we have the largest flocks in the world of these birds.
And I was looking on your website today, was it 34 species? How many
34 species.
34 species of birds? That's a lot. How many birds in total do you have?
Many hundreds.
Hundreds.
Oh yeah,
No kidding.
let's just 100.
Wow. So we got a $25 donation from Sniper, $5 from Anonymous, and $5 from Aha. Thank you guys so much. The alerts are not popping up
Yeah,
right now,
that's
though,
great.
which
Yeah.
I need to look into. So you have hundreds of birds, and what is your focus?
Well, so our focus is on saving birds from countries that don't have conservation on site.
Uh huh.
These are birds that you just suddenly went, oh, there we go. These are birds that were already in the United States. We don't take any birds out of the wild. But what we did is we did something people said you couldn't do. We took birds that were in zoos or with breeders or that were pets, and we rewilded them. We made them wild again. And we did this by giving them space outside. They're not inside in cages. By giving them really good food. We cut fresh fruit every single day. By giving them friends and mates, and by letting them be birds. We don't expect anything from our birds. They don't have to perform. They don't have to be looked at. They just have to be birds.
Yeah.
And people said you couldn't do that. That in order to have wild birds, you had to start with wild birds, and that's not true.
Right.
We've been doing this for a long enough time that we've built up some really important flocks, and the idea is that should they go extinct in the wild, and should there be protected land in the wild, which is unclear right now, our flocks should be put back in the wild and be wild again. Kind of a crazy idea, many years ago, but now some other organizations are doing it, which is great because, it's better to do this kind of work in country. If you want to save birds from New Guinea, which is where most of our birds come from, it's better to do it in New Guinea. I agree with that. But what if you can't do it in New Guinea? And what if you have the birds already in the United States? Why not take advantage of that? So maybe because I wasn't very experienced in this 25 years ago, I didn't know you couldn't do it. But I just said it's practical. If the birds are here, don't raise them as pets. Don't make them be our children.
Right.
Let them be birds. And that's very simple. That's really what we've done.
Yeah. So what we're talking about, before we get into the nitty-gritty of all of it, I would really like to play this video, the Project Fly Free video, about the Living Species Bank with the dodo bird, just so that they can get a feel for it, because it's really, really beautifully done.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so let me play this video. I'll mute you for a second here while I play it, and then I'll let you know when the video's done.
Thanks, man.
All right. Oh, dang it.
Welcome. We're Pandemonium Aviaries. We're the first living genetic seed bank dedicated to saving birds. We were founded in 2009, and we have quietly built up some of the world's largest flocks of birds. These birds could possibly be the saviors of their species. Just because these birds are held for conservation purposes doesn't mean that they should have to sacrifice flight. We're thinking outside the cage. Imagine several protected acres where our birds could fly and live in safety. Did you know that the dodo was the world's largest pigeon? Now the crown pigeons are the largest. This is a crown pigeon. It is the dodo of our time. We don't want to lose the crown pigeons the way we lost the dodo. We should do better this time. With your help, we can save the crown pigeon and other birds.
He is pretty. I want him to have a bigger cage so he can fly.
Instead of settling for replicas of what once was, let's save what we've got now. Become a member of our flock. Help us support what we have, build more for the future, and together save this important part of nature.
Isn't that a great video, you guys? The quality is crazy. It's so well done.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Michelle, we just finished that video.
Okay.
Maki, thank you so much for $20. I appreciate that. So before people keep donating, can you say briefly where donations are going to go to? How do donations support you guys as an organization?
So we send 100% of our donations to the birds, and I don't know if there's any other organization that's really able to do that. And the reason that we are is we have major donors that basically support our administration. They pay our bird keepers, and they pay for anything that is not bird care or bird food. And so when the public donates, all of it goes to the birds. It goes for food, it goes for veterinary care, it goes for toys, for enrichment. We every once in a while we have to we switch birds around so that they have an interesting environment, and we have to put all the perches in different places and things like that. So that's what donations go for. It goes directly to making the birds have a better life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So in that video you said the Living Species Bank, what exactly does that mean? Like how does the breeding process work at your facility?
So basically, we don't do any artificial breeding. So, there are some conservationists that use incubators, and they pull eggs, and the birds lay more eggs. And we are really preserving bird cultures as well as birds. So we want them to do it themselves. I mean, it's not useful to them if humans, help them in the process. They have to learn. Sometimes they do that by making mistakes, but ultimately they get it right. We try not to have all of our birds breed because we don't have enough room.
Right.
So we focus on 6 species that are really important. You saw some of those in the videos: the crown pigeons, the green-necked pigeons, the bleeding heart doves. And those we've become world experts in because we've just done it for a long time. Some of the other species that we try, we don't have really nest boxes that are easy for them to use. We don't make it easy for them. Sometimes they do something really easy. That's fine. Keep them.
Yeah. Really. So we got a donation from, I don't know if you're familiar with American Eagle Foundation, but Connor, who works at American Eagle Foundation, donated $20 and said, "Keep up the conservation." And he asked what the logo means because he thinks it's very cool. He also said, "Hi, best friend, Miss."
Thank you. So we have a logo and we have a motto. So the logo looks like the world, but it also looks like a nest.
Yes. I'm trying to
and so we believe that the world is a nest. We're incubating life all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's a double meaning. So our motto is thinking outside the cage.
Yes.
And that's really what we want to do. We actually, Maya, we're probably moving most of the birds to the East Coast, to another conservation organization because they have a lot of land.
Really?
And once we raise the money, because we have promised to pay for the habitats that will be built. But for example, our East African crown cranes have been with us many years, and their aviary is 20 feet by 20 feet by 20 feet tall, which is not a small aviary, but it's not big enough. And at this new place, they would have 1/4 of an acre of marshland that would be netted over all to themselves.
Wow, that's so cool.
So right now they bathe in a little kiddie pool. They bathe in a little bird bath. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, we do our best, but we just, we're on less than an acre, and the enclosure is as big as we can do it. They would have an amazing place to raise babies and to be natural and to find their own food. And so, but we have to pay to build that habitat. We're in a fundraising fund right now to do that. And, the hope is by next spring, actually, we could start moving some of the birds.
That's so cool.
Exciting.
No way. And you need more space because I think I talked to you about this on the phone. But you haven't done releases, right? Or you don't do releases?
Yeah, so our plan was to have these birds be available for releases. We would turn them over to another organization to do the release. It's an expertise all unto itself.
Right.
But there has to be safe habitat for them. And that hasn't happened. It's gotten worse.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons we started looking for another place, because it's not fair to keep animals that are wild in small enclosures. I mean, they need land. They need to be able to fly. And so we found it. Now we just have to be able to build the habitats for them. So it is exciting. A lot of work, but it's exciting.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing when I was looking into your website is how important it is to do conservation in the US. Because you wouldn't be successful doing this where these birds are actually from, right?
That's right. I mean, for a long time, conventional wisdom, conservationists said, the only way to do this is in situ. That means at the place where the birds are. And I agree, that's the best way. But if you can't do it there, and you can't do it in some places, then you shouldn't let that stop you because it's not considered the ideal way. I mean, we just did it where the birds were. It had already been brought into the United States to be pets, zoo animals. So why not do it here? And actually, a lot of zoos in the United States have sent us their birds to breed. So we do a cooperative arrangement, and they just let us keep the birds and the offspring.
So what are some reasons why you can't like why you wouldn't be successful in New Guinea and the Philippines?
So right now, one of just the way the country runs in New Guinea is there are no land rights. Aside protected land. Land belongs to everyone.
Right.
So there are mining companies or oil companies there that are effectively taking over places and by de facto not letting anybody else in there. But legally, you can't do it. So these birds are hunted there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're eaten for food.
Right.
And so we wouldn't be able to have a safe place for them. You see, I thought at some point New Guinea would adopt the African model of game parks. Mm-hmm. And then it would be safe for us to bring our birds back there. Mm-hmm. But it hasn't happened. And so I thought it was...
What is the African model for game parks?
Well, the African model is that people will pay money to go to game parks. It's ecotourism. And that supports the conservation of the animals.
Right.
I mean, it's perfect. They're still poaching, but in fact, it does work in that animals have people can see them and experience them, and New Guinea doesn't do any of that yet. I mean, it's a poor country. I'm not criticizing in any way their lack of conservation. They have a lot of problems. There's a lot of disease, a lot of poverty, and so. Places that are facing multiple problems, the animals often are the bottom of the list in terms of what needs to be protected.
Right. And do you guys do like tours? Do you guys do things like that at your facility, or?
We've just started. So we've registered with Airbnb, and we do tours, once a week. And
that's so cool.
It is. So for years we didn't do it because we wanted to protect the birds' privacy. But the place that they're going, they'll probably be on public display at least part of the time. We wanted to get them used to people. And so far it's been great. They're looking at it as entertainment. They kind of like having people come around.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw the Airbnb thing on your website, and I remember, when I started this podcast, I've been talking to Michelle about this for a while. we've been trying to make this work for a while because I've known you for forever. But I remember when I was little going to your facility and just being amazed. It's so colorful. Here, guys, this is a picture of I don't remember what your aviaries are called, but on the Sanctuary tab of your website. It's so beautiful and so colorful. I just imagine that people would love that.
People like the enclosures as much as the birds, and we let them go in some of the enclosures.
Yeah,
it's actually turned out. I was a little worried that people would bother the birds, so that was a little bit of a concern, and we wouldn't have enough time because we have a lot of work here. We have a very small staff, and feeding takes 4 hours a day, so there's a lot to do. But it's been fun, and it's been fun because the best people come. I mean, we just have the nicest people, and they like birds. And sometimes they don't even like birds when they come. It's been they bring a friend or maid who likes birds as a present, and they end up loving birds, and that's cool too. So, I mean, I've really enjoyed it. It's been good for the birds. It's been great for us.
Yeah, I think it's so important to people or for people to get that kind of experience. Connor from American Eagle Foundation said in chat, ecotourism is the future of conservation. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that there's it makes a huge difference for people to be able to see them in person, and get those experiences. Do you guys do any outreach or anything like that, or is it all at your facility?
Well, it is all at our facility. I mean, for years we did special outreach to little kids. We did a program with Stanford where during the summers we had preschoolers come and they would spend the day with us, and we'd study about birds. We would quiz them before they came about their understanding about conservation, about birds, and then when they left, we'd give them the same questions. And there's always a sea change in their understanding and their dedication to doing what was necessary to preserve the world. But we spend so much of our time with the birds. I mean, these are hundreds of birds, and it's a lot of care.
Right. Yeah, and your mission is the species bank, right?
It is. I mean, we originally said conservation and education, and we do think education is important, but the facility just is large enough to do that. So the education's been primarily through videos, through writing, through speeches, things like that.
Yeah. I think it's so funny that we can hear what's her name again?
So her name is, it's a terrible name, but we don't change a bird's name. Her name is Beekman. I used to call her Bergman, think it'd be nicer, but
Beekman.
they've proven in the wild that parrotlets, for example, learn their names in the nest.
Really?
They learn their own names, their parents' names, and their siblings' names.
What? I didn't know that. That's so cool.
And so they are able, and these researchers from Cornell have documented hundreds of sounds that are words. So these birds are able to, like a year later, just say, "Hey, Bob, hi, it's Tom. How are you?" And
the heck?
Hey, yeah, it's Tom. Have you had anything good to eat? And I saw some good food. I mean, they have language.
Yeah.
And it's really clear to me that birds have their names in bird language. And so if a bird comes having been named by a human, we keep that name because that name is the bird's name. The bird knows that name. We don't change it.
Right. Yeah. I this summer I did an internship at an exotic bird sanctuary in Del Mar. So it was all parrots and macaws, cockatoos, all that jazz. It was an experience. I learned so much about them. They're it amazed me how well they spoke. I'll have to send you some videos. There's some really, really funny ones. Of them talking.
Yeah, we have one bird. I mean, we don't teach our birds we don't teach them anything. They just learn. So we have one Amazon who, when we feed her, she goes, "Free food, free food."
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. The Amazons are so good. They always surprised me because I thought the macaws would be better talkers.
Yeah,
but from the ones I met, the Amazons definitely had them.
Yeah,
that's so cool. How did you get into birds? Because you've been doing it forever, right? It seems like forever.
So it was just by accident. I was driving on St. Lawrence Expressway and I passed a hurt dove by the side of the road.
Dove? A hurt dove?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about birds, nothing, zero. She was one of these white, doves, pigeons that they probably released. And I at first I just drove by her because I was late for an appointment. And then I got to where I was going and I realized that I didn't feel good about just leaving this hurt animal by the side of the road. So I thought she'd been hit by a car because of where she was, but she'd been dropped by a hawk. And because I went back and I got her, took her to a vet, and that started this incredible, amazing journey. I didn't know it would end up this way, but
wow. Wait, that's a crazy story. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you found a hurt bird, a bird that was dropped by a hawk, and you took it to the vet. Yep. And then you just fell in love with birds.
I was, I not only fell in love with them, I just grew to be absolutely amazed at their capabilities.
Yeah.
I just had no idea that they were so smart, that they were so sensitive, that they were. I kind of looked at them as like flowers in the garden. They were something pretty, but to really think about them as needing homes or help or food or water or anything like that. And that sure changed when I started getting to know them. Amazing. They're absolutely amazing. I've always loved animals, and I was on the Humane Society board and I was working very hard for them. And I saved an elephant when I was 22. I mean, I've always been the person people brought their
animals. How did you save an elephant?
It's a wild story, but it was an elephant. It was a baby elephant that had outgrown its enclosure and was being sold to a Mexican circus.
What? Wait, what? That's crazy. Could you tell us that story? Would you mind? That sounds like a really interesting one.
I actually can't really talk a lot about it because at the time, we were kind of told that we really shouldn't talk about it because the sale had already gone through. But I worked with the city council and got some donors together, and we managed to buy the elephant instead of having it sold to the zoo.
Wow.
It was $10,000. I think I was making maybe $12,000 at the time. It was not. So,
oh my gosh.
But we ended up finding a home for this wonderful elephant back in the East Coast with the founder of Nautilus Equipment. He was assembling a herd of baby elephants whose parents had been killed in Africa. He was bringing them over by plane. So we brought this elephant, Maya, out there, and she did very well. But then a few years later, he was going through divorce and called me and said, we need a new home. And so I found a home for her in Galt with the Performing Animal Welfare Association, and she's still there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I went back years later to visit her, and she remembered who I was.
Oh my gosh, no way. I have no experience with elephants, but that's incredible. What a story.
They're amazing. Yeah, as part of we had a couple weeks before between the time that we'd given the money and she was going to be going there, and the insurance company at this particular zoo said that she had to be in chains or someone had to be with her. And so I was with her a lot, and it was quite a privilege. It was
Wow, that's so cool. So with the birds themselves, you went from the dove to, did you get like parrots of your own, like macaws, or?
So what happened was, I took this dove to the vet. Hey, she wants some attention. Come here.
It looked like she just made herself upset there. Like she like.
Yeah, no, she was like, come on, you've been ignoring me. So, the vet was quite a ways away. She wasn't very close. So, but I was going every day to check on this bird, and the bird seemed to be getting better. She seemed to, know who I was. She would come to the side of the incubator when I came, and I thought that was remarkable.
Uh-huh.
And then the vet called me on the 5th day and said, don't come because your bird died last night.
Oh.
And I started to cry, but I didn't want my kids to see me crying, so I hid behind our local newspaper. And what I opened the page to at random was a big ad that said, desperately need a home for a white dove.
That is so crazy. I literally just got goosebumps. That's so crazy. Oh
yeah, it was. Every step along the way has kind of been like that. It's been this, I haven't planned it. I didn't want it. It kept happening. I got that dove and a few others from this woman who was starting a homing bird business. She wanted to do releases. And she had gotten the wrong doves. She'd gotten regular doves. They can't find their way home, and they just end up hawk meat, which is what happened to the bird that I found. So she was getting rid of the ones she already had, and I took some of them, but I didn't know what to do. So I joined the American Dove Association, and they sent me a directory. And I started calling breeders in the area, and I found one in Sebastopol. He never answers the phone, but he did this time. And we started talking, and I was asking him for information, and he kept saying, I'd invite you up to show you, but I can't. It's breeding season. And I'd say, so what does the nest box look like? He said, well, I'd invite you up to show you, but I can't. It's breeding season. He kept saying that. So after a while, I said, sir, it's okay. I'm not going to visit you because I have little kids, and we don't go anyplace.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm going to do next weekend, I'm going to take my stepdaughter to camp, and I named the camp, and he goes, that's right down the block from me. We have to come visit. So I did, and we ended up being friends, and he gave me birds he didn't want. And that started it. I met other breeders, and they gave me birds they didn't want. And what they would say is, we're going to kill this bird unless you take it. And I'm like, oh, no, don't kill it. I'll take it.
Right. Yeah.
But it turns out, Maya, that it was a very special time in history. And it was right after the Wild Bird Act had been passed, and that was a law that stopped the importation of birds from the wild, which was a really good law because prior to that we were bringing in millions of birds.
Yeah.
And after that law, it was fewer than 3,000. So it was a good law. But it changed the bird breeding business in the United States, and breeders could no longer breed just a large number of different species. They started to change how they did business. They started to breed the expensive big birds like the macaws and the cockatoos. And then they bred the really mass-produced budgies and finches, and they got rid of everything in the middle. And that just happened to be when I was starting to take in birds.
Yeah.
So I didn't plan on becoming a rescue. It just sort of happened.
Yeah. So you started as a rescue.
Yeah.
And then how did you switch to birds of New Guinea and the Philippines? It's so specific. I don't know anybody else doing conservation for those birds.
I know. So what happened was one of our birds died.
Okay.
And it was a green-naped pheasant pigeon, and she died from fright. I was on my way out, and I noticed that one of the enclosure looked a little sick. So I asked someone to help me separate out the birds and to put the green-napes in the shed and to close the door. And this person didn't know enough about how to do it safely, and so it's actually scared one of the birds, and she died of a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
And, what happened was that her mate started to cry, and he cried for weeks. He just sat there. He was barely eating, and he just.
What kind of bird was this?
The green-naped pheasant pigeon. They look like pheasants, but they are actually pigeons. And they, after a while, I just couldn't stand how sad he was. And so Christmas was coming up, and I basically said to my family, if you want to get me a present, what I want is the female green-naped pheasant pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't used to buying birds. I've been used to getting them for free, but I needed to get a mate for him.
Right.
What we discovered was that in all the world zoos put together, there were only 32 left. And that in the 10 years since I'd been doing this rescue, a lot of the birds I'd taken in had just become really rare. And part of the, I've been offered a lot of birds I didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
And I use what I call the Charlie Brown method of selection.
Okay.
Nobody else wanted, I'd take it. If it was beautiful, or it was expensive, I'd say no. Because I always think another place could be found. But if it was a bird that was really sick or needed unusual food, or just no one else would take it, then I said yes. And the green are like this. They're very picky. They're very hard to keep. And so I didn't realize that many of the birds that I'd taken really became genetically valuable.
Yeah.
So I started to try to give them away to zoos. I thought you could help me breed them, or to breeders. But when it came to the green napes, I couldn't find the right place. I mean, I talked with ones. I talked with San Diego Zoo that was interested in them, but I said, you can have my birds for free. I just want you to give them a good home, and I don't need to have any oversight. You can do with them as you want. You're experts, but the only thing I ask is that if you ever sell them or transfer them somewhere else, that I get right of first refusal.
For sure.
I mean, I knew that I had put them I would be putting them in a good. I wanted to make sure that if anything happened after that my birds wouldn't just be, sent somewhere else.
Right.
They refused. They said, no, we won't do that.
Oh.
So I decided to keep them, and the same thing with the crown pigeons and some of the other birds. So it's funny because now I have their birds.
Yeah, interesting.
But so it was again by accident, and I did this on my own. I mean, we weren't a nonprofit, and then I just became aware of how big the need was, and that as an individual, I could afford to maybe save one or two species, but I couldn't do more than that. So that's when we became a nonprofit and started gathering a flock of people who are interested in conservation, and volunteers and donors and everybody. I mean, we got help in everything. That logo was designed by a volunteer. She was, I think, in charge of doing that for the draft. I mean, people would just show up and say, "Can we help?" And
Yeah, is Beekman? The chat is laughing at the sounds that Beekman is making.
I know.
It's so funny. What do those sounds mean?
She's basically, so part of it is that I'm stroking her.
Okay.
She really likes it.
That's so funny.
Yeah, do you like it? Yeah, you really like it. If she gets too noisy, I can put her outside if it's interfering with me.
No, it's okay. It's funny. Guys, for those of you who are just coming in here, this is what Beekman is. Michelle has her in her lap, so you can't see her. But
I can you want to stand up again? Sit up. Come on, step up, boo-boo. Step up. Okay. So this is Beekman.
There she is. That's so funny. Oh my gosh, those sounds are so good.
She doesn't have a mate. She doesn't really like it. So she has like these pin feathers back, and she can't preen herself back there. She can't reach it.
Pin feathers.
So, I mean, this is, if she had a mate, that's what the mate would be doing. So what I'm doing is I'm just going like lightly through them and taking off some of the vellum, and it feels really good. It's like having to scratch your back, I think.
Yeah, that's so funny. Oh my gosh.
You like it? Is that good?
How old is she? Did you already mention that?
We have no idea.
No idea.
We know that she was with this particular person in the East Bay for 17 years. She's been with us for 10 years.
Okay.
And who knows before that? We don't know the ages of most of the birds who came through rescue.
Right.
I mean, I can understand.
Okay.
So,
do you know how much that bird weighs? A lot of people are asking how much she weighs.
So I don't really know. I would say, how much do you weigh, honey? I would say maybe 3 pounds would be my guess.
3 pounds. There you go, chat. She's about 3 pounds. Cool.
Maybe 1.5 kilos, maybe. And she's she's quite old. I mean, we just don't know how old, but she's not a youngster. But she seems to be getting younger all the time because she's just coming out. I mean, she's coming to life.
Yeah.
And she's really good at kind of fighting. So this was my lunch today. to eat. And so I thought I'd share it with her. And I put some pine nuts on it for her, and she picked through the entire thing just to get the pine nuts. So, I gave her the pepper. She went, nah.
So
she
cute.
That's something that she likes. So that's a soybean. You like that? Yeah. So it's like
What a
no, I
lucky
don't want
bird.
the lettuce. I don't want the sprouts. I want the pine nut.
She's a lucky bird.
She's wonderful. I mean, she's very sweet. And there you go. There you go. There you go. And actually, for years, we had interns, and once a week I'd have a conversation with them about ethics.
Uh-huh.
And the question was, if the person who had her before wanted her back.
Yeah.
Because we had a program for years that we would take birds that people couldn't keep. They didn't necessarily want to give them up. They're having hard times. They were sick, or they had problems with where they lived. And so we took the birds with the idea that we would give them back. And the only stipulation I put was that they had to contact me once a month to tell me where they were and that they still wanted their birds. And we had to discontinue that because we kept the birds forever, and we didn't have the facilities, the resources to do it. But during that time, Beekman had come under that program, and this man had lost his home to foreclosure, and he left with Beekman and with his dog. And so I asked the interns, if he calls and wants her back, what do we do?
Right.
Really poorly treated and really a mess. What do we do? And they all said, no, don't give her back. And I actually disagreed. I really felt that the reason he had treated her poorly was lack of information. It was not lack of love. He just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
That if we could teach him how to care for her properly, that he would be a good person for her to be with.
Uh-huh.
I mean, after all, you're losing your home, and what do you take of everything you've got? He took his animals. And so that to me spoke volumes about where his heart was.
Yeah.
He just didn't know any better than to give her the food that she needed or to put her outside and things like that.
Right.
But he ended up, he called a few months, and then he finally said, please keep her. You can give her a better home than I can. And so we have. But I don't think he was a bad person at all.
Thank you, Stoned. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's interesting. But I think we have a lot of issues. We had a lot of issues with that with the organization that I was with this summer, and that all of the birds that we had were pets at one point or another, and they all came to us because people get parrots and have no idea, I mean, they're like they really are like a toddler.
Thank you so much.
And then live 60 to 70 years, right? So it's like having a 2-year-old for 70 years, which
That's right.
Which doesn't work for a lot of people.
It doesn't. And we got our first bird, Amigo, our first parrot, because we were at a vet's, and I did not want parrots for that very reason. We've been offered amazing birds. I mean, just beautiful birds.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying no, because, I mean, you really have to, if they've been raised to think they're humans, you have to give them a lot of attention. They're part of your family, and they can't be stuck in cages. They have to be out with your family. And I knew how much work that was, and I said no. But we were at a vet's with a bird, a dove, and my son Nicky was with me. He was about 12, and he went to the bathroom. And he came back, and he had this little red-headed Amazon on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Nick, what are you doing? And he said, I didn't do anything. I walked by the cage, and the bird said hello, and I went over to say hello, and he opened the cage door and crawled to my shoulder.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, right, you can't do that. He belongs to somebody. And the vet was quite upset because there was a sign over the cage that said, don't touch the bird bites. And here he was on the shoulder within biting distance of the eye.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, actually, we've had him here a year. People dropped him off, very overweight, very sick, and they've never come back. So he is up for adoption. And then I did something that I should have never done, but I didn't know any better.
Uh-huh.
Never argue about not taking a bird in front of the
Did you repeat that? You cut out there.
Oh, so I kept coming up with reasons why we should not take the bird.
Right.
And the bird heard this. Amigo heard me saying it. So, for example, I said, Nick, we can't take Amigo. We don't have a cage. And the vet said, I'll give you a cage.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Nikki, we don't even have a carrier. And the vet said, I'll give you a carrier.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Nikki, you know, all of our to these rescued birds, you know, we can't take in a pet, you know. And she said, I'll give you free vet care. So
Oh my
every argument
gosh.
I came up with, I was saying no, and she was saying yes.
Right.
And ultimately, we couldn't get the bird off of Nick's shoulder until Nick said to Amigo, hey, bud, you want to come with me? And Amigo walked down the shoulder and into the carrier.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Amigo to this day, and that was maybe 15 years ago, hates me. He just hates me, no matter what I do.
No.
Food, give him toys, I sweet talk him, I bathe him, I tell him how beautiful he is. He pretends to like me once in a while, that he still hates me. And then he'll pretend to like me, and he'll do the flutter like the baby pick me up, and I'll go to pick him up, and he bites me.
Yeah.
I go, ow! And he goes, and he laughs.
Oh my gosh. I had so much of that this summer, Michelle. I know how much that's the worst. Citrus just donated $100.
Oh,
Citrus,
wonderful.
thank you so much. We're at $211 and 99 cents. Thank you guys thank you guys so much for donating that. That's incredible. Citrus, you're so generous. Thank you. Yeah, I had so much of that this summer with the parrots at the sanctuary. They'd put their foot out like they wanted to step up, and then I'd put my arm out, and then they'd grab my finger with their foot and pull it into their mouth, and
that's right.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, they can be so manipulative. It's interesting.
It is, and
you
know, they have the intelligence of a 3-year-old child.
Yep.
So why they're bored? They're just sitting.
Yeah, they love the reaction.
They do,
yeah.
and they have a right to, because they should be flying. They should be out flying with flocks of their own, and they should have been raised by their parents. I mean, I think that birds as pets have their place, and they're wonderful, and I love the ones that we have as companion birds, but they really should be out flying in the wild. They weren't designed to be in our.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit? So you have six species that you focus on.
We do.
Let me pull up on your website though. Can you tell us a little bit about those? Like, we'll go through them one by one, and I'll show some pictures while you're talking about them.
Sure, that'd be great. I don't have video here, so I can't really see any. Oh, there we go. And my video, I think, is frozen, so I won't be able to see which ones you're pulling up. But
that's okay. You can talk about them, and I'll pull them up as you talk about them.
Okay, great. So we have two kinds of crown pigeons.
Uh-huh.
And crown pigeons come from New Guinea. One is the Victoria crown. It has kind of the white crest at the top. Mm-hmm. And then we have a blue crown, which is a little bit bigger. I mean, if someone's not that familiar, they look very similar. And the crown pigeons are the world's largest pigeon.
Yeah.
And people don't realize the dodo, which is the symbol of conservation and which was pushed to extinction in just 80 years, the dodo was the world's largest pigeon. It was a pigeon.
Right.
And so we consider these the modern day pigeon. Like the dodo, they live only on an island. The dodo lived on the island of Mauritius. Like the dodo, they depend on the forest for their food, berries and nuts and things like that. And what pushed the dodo to extinction, in addition to hunting, was that the forests were cut down in order to plant palm oil plantations.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what's happening in New Guinea. And that's exactly what's driving the crown pigeons to extinction. Their habitat's just being cut down so that palm oil can be grown.
Jeez.
They are considered very good food because they're big. I mean, they weigh a lot, and they provide they're a better investment in terms of eating than a chicken, because a chicken lays an egg a day. A crown pigeon lays an egg every 6 months.
Every 6 months.
One egg every 6 months, and they reproduce very slowly, which is typical of island birds. And it sort of makes sense if you think an island has a finite amount of space. And so it's not atypical for birds to reproduce more slowly. There's just not enough land for them to reproduce quickly. So these birds, they lay one egg every 6 months. They take care of their babies for months. They will feed them for months, which is, again, unusual in the bird world. The mourning doves that we see in our area, they fledge in 2 weeks. They're incubated for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, they're gone. So in a month, they can take care of themselves.
Right.
Pigeons, they sit on their eggs for a month, and they feed their babies for months after that. So it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they tame very quickly, and so oftentimes they'll be captured when they're young, and they'll be fed and kept and fattened up to be eaten. Mm-hmm. So they're not safe in New Guinea. And I have to tell you, of all the birds that I've interacted with, these are they have a personality that is just bar none amazing. First of all, they wag their tails, so they kind of remind me of little
Really?
puppies. Yeah, they wag their tails, and they make amazing sounds. One of them is a deep boom, boom, boom.
Uh-huh.
It's like a drum, and if you think about it, it's ideally suited for the forest because that sound
Thank you so
carries
much.
for a long way. And then they make another sound that people think sounds like a cell phone, but
Uh-huh.
actually cell phones sound like them.
Yeah.
And they mate for life. They really take good care of their mates. They take great care of their children. They're wonderful. They're absolutely amazingly wonderful. And so, but they're just appearing. So we specialize in those, and we have the second largest flock in the world of them in captivity. We don't know how many in nature. There's a system of reporting that classifies animals as being least threatened,
Yes.
and that's done by the IUCN, which is a political board, and they gather their from local bird companies like BirdLife. And so they have actually classified some of our birds as not being endangered, but we get our information from birders, and they clearly are. And there has not been a survey in New Guinea for over 15 years. So no one's really done them. Nobody really knows. And the information we get back, you just don't see them anymore. You don't hear them.
So
We are
that's another reason why you couldn't do conservation in New Guinea itself,
Sure.
is that they don't do things like that. Evidently. Okay. Okay.
the green-necked pheasant pigeon also is from New Guinea.
Uh-huh.
Very hard to see. They're very secretive birds, and but you can hear them. That bird that I told you about, that cry, that morning cry. You would never forget it if you heard it. It's like descending whistle. It's really mournful, and they flush straight up when they're scared, so that you can hunt them fairly easily too. They're amazing birds. One of the things that people oftentimes don't know about birds, that I didn't know about birds, is that birds see ultraviolet. So we don't see ultraviolet, we don't have that capacity.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so when we look at birds, they look a certain way, but when birds look at birds, they look very different.
Yeah.
And if you were to see a green-necked pheasant pigeon just with our own eyes, they have a nape that is just with purples and greens and blues. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. But when you see the bird through the ultraviolet light, then the whole thing it's a rainbow of colors. They're absolutely spectacular. The other birds that we are particularly interested in are Nicobar pigeons. They do occur in New Guinea and also the Nicobar Islands. They genetically are the closest living relative to the dodo.
Uh-huh.
If you look at the genetic
Whoa,
tree,
they're cool looking.
they are very cool. Now, if you see them in the dark, if you see them in the shadows, like if they were in a forest, you would see just black. I mean, it'd be very hard to see them.
Yeah.
In fact, if you see them in light, they are iridescent. They also have blues and greens and oranges. They're magnificent.
Yeah,
They're being hunted to extinction because they have a body part that is used in jewelry, and so they're being killed for that body part to make jewelry.
What part of this bird is used to make jewelry?
It's like a gizzard. I forget the
Oh,
name.
interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, these beautiful birds are just their lives are being destroyed. The species is being destroyed.
Yeah.
For some frivolous joy. We probably have one of the most productive flocks in the world, and we
Thank you so much.
pioneered breeding them as a colony, and we did it purely by accident. Most breeders were breeding them as pairs, and we got a group in, and we just kept them all together till we could figure out space for pairs, and then they just started breeding.
Yeah.
And now it's considered that's the way you do it. You breed them in colonies. I don't think there's a lot of people breeding them. 2 or 3 breeders in the United States. But because we don't sell our offspring, because we keep them forever, we have quite a large flock.
What species of bird do you have the most of?
We have a lot of plum-headed parrots. They're not uncommon. They're uncommon in captivity, and they just have bred very well here.
Oh, they're so cute.
They're really cute.
What a fitting name.
I know. And the males and females look different. The males have sort of a purplish color head, and the females kind of blue. I didn't know that in the beginning. We were sexing them, and they grew up, and you could tell visually. So
Yeah.
they're dimorphic, but they're very they're wonderful.
Cool.
They're birds, yeah.
So crown pigeons, Nicobar pigeons. We kind of already talked about green nape pheasant pigeons.
But we also have bleeding heart doves.
Yes.
We have two varieties. We have Luzons, and we have another one that are rare in nature. They come from the Philippines.
There's another very fitting name.
Yes, because it looks like someone shot them. And
it really does, yeah.
Yeah. We had a mess of babies recently, and it's kind of cool. We had to redo our aviaries. Just think back now, because if we're going to be moving the birds, we want aviaries, but we had to do them because there were a lot of mice in them. They were hidden in the walls. We ended up taking everything down, and a lot of our babies had been dying before that. And once we were able to get rid of the mice, and we've had a lot of success, and they're really great birds. I mean, they're not tame at all, so they get scared if you come near them. We don't handle them at all.
Right.
But they're so cool looking. I mean, it's just
they're beautiful.
They turn around and there's just like red there. Yeah. Nature's amazing. It's just amazing.
It is. That's so cool. I think the first time I saw a bleeding heart dove was at a zoo somewhere. I don't remember which one or something like that, in one of those walkabout aviaries. Yeah. And I had no idea that was a marking, and I thought that it was like dying. I really did think that it was hurt. Yeah, it's crazy. That's so cool. Is that all 6? Did we go over the 6?
I think we have the green napes, we have the Nicobars, and then we have the bleeding heart doves. So we also, we're breeding our cranes. And do you know what baby cranes are called?
No, I don't.
They're called colts, like baby horses.
No way! That's so cool. You have African crown cranes.
We have African, they're East African crown cranes. Uh-huh. They're the only non-migratory ones. I kind of cool with the birds that migrate in captivity. They came through rescue. We had one that had been pinioned improperly, and pinioning is where they cut the muscle under the wing, because what these pairs, if the male stays with the female, if the female can't fly, the male will not fly away. And so what breeders do is they cut the muscle underneath the wing of the female, and she can't fly, and the male stays, and they don't have to roof her net or anything like that.
Oh my gosh.
So ours are fully flighted. The first one that came was pinioned improperly, and we took her in and we paid for her operations, and but she ended up dying a few months later from bleeding. But meanwhile, we'd gotten her a mate, which was our male, Ferguson. So now we had a mate who was alone, so we had to go and bought a female for him, and that's Olivia. So actually, our 2 rescues are really birds that we purchased. Yeah. Because we started off with a rescue, and we just don't believe that birds should be alone. They need to have friendship. They need to have mates. So yeah. So they actually had 3 beautiful calls last year, and then the place was too small and they stepped on them.
Oh my gosh.
Awful. So that speeded up our looking for a place with more space, and next year hopefully if we raise enough money, there'll be beautiful marshland.
Yeah. John tipped $80. John, thank you so much. And he said, sorry if I missed it, but do they do any enrichment with the birds at the sanctuary?
So we don't do typical enrichment except with our former companion birds. But what we do is we feed in a way that makes them look for the food. We oftentimes don't feed, we'll just scatter food. But we actually switch aviaries. We move them, which is not easy to do and not that much fun to do because they could get hurt.
Right.
But we find that just giving them different environments is interesting for them. And also giving them different, birds at either end of their aviaries. That's also interesting for them. And then lately having people come out and look at them, they consider enrichment. I never thought they would. But there's really, birds should be taking care of themselves. And that's what they do in the wild. And that's really, we need to replicate that better. We do have hiding places for them. We do. We have an aviary, a very large aviary called the butterfly aviary, the blue butterfly. It was sectioned off so that we could keep species separate. And what happened was we brought in the plumheads, which were our first parrots that enclosure. Before that had only been parrots, had been birds without sharp feet. Mm-hmm. And they ate holes. They ate holes through the wire.
Oh no.
They go in and out, and what's actually turned out to be kind of interesting was they started eating each other's food, and that the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what to feed birds. I mean, we all think we do, and nutritionists and we use zoo diets. But the bottom line is we really don't know. And so in a way, it's kind of cool. They kind of got to choose food that we didn't think was good for them and that they wanted.
Right.
So we feed, part of the way we feed also is enrichment in that, for instance, sometimes we'll use a half cantaloupe as a bowl instead of putting it in a real bowl. And
you'll use a what as a bowl?
Half cantaloupe.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Watermelon, whatever the fruit is, we use that as a bowl. And we cut it in different sizes, and many times we just don't cut it at all for parents. They have to go and, put things on sticks so that they themselves have to, get the food. So, it's the best we can do. It's not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Hang on 1 second. I'm gonna need you guys to smile, please. I don't know what's going on in there, but smile. Thank you. Okay, sorry, we're back. So, what is your what's your goal? Like, what's your dream for the organization? Is it the big move? Is it releases?
So I think it's eventually releases, but
Okay.
I'm really concerned right now about the birds and their conditions at this point.
Right.
Because we never expected them to be in captivity for more than 10 years, and it's been 24 years now. So I really want them to have bigger spaces. They need to have more room, and we have the place found. I mean, it took many years of looking. We talked to every major bird park, every zoo. I was going to build in Puerto Rico. We were given 7 acres of land there, and ended up there were some problems there. But I have spent a lot of my time, looking for a better place for them because I've given my life to them. I love them totally because I won't be moving, but it's what they need, and I feel really great about that. But we don't have the money yet to build all the habitats. We have some of them starting on a big aviary September 17th.
Yeah.
We have money for that, but we don't have money for like the cranes. And
You're starting an aviary on the East Coast or at your facility now? That's so cool, Michelle. Congratulations.
So I think I may have told you we have many aviaries, but the biggest is 20 feet by 20 feet by 20 feet tall. This first aviary will be 220 feet by 180 feet.
Oh my gosh. And you're going to put what birds would you be putting in there?
So we'll put a mixture of birds in there. There will be a mixture of birds, but this new organization will be responsible. I mean, I will be visiting birds. I will be there. I'll be on the board. I'll be busy. I'll be there at least 4 times a year. But I have a great confidence that the birds will be well taken care of, and it's exciting for me that they will have what they need to thrive. I mean, they do very well here. People come and they see it, and they can't believe the condition our birds are in. They're very healthy. They're extremely well fed. They eat a lot better than I do. A lot better than I do.
Yeah.
And we get donations. We get donations from Costco, from Whole Foods, from KT Foods. I mean, we have had the support of companies and people to make sure that this happens. But there's only so much you can do with a small amount of land. So this is a chance for them to really be able to have a great life.
Speaking of support, Cater Salad tipped $20 and Anonymous with $50. Thank you guys so much. We're at $400 in donations so far. Guys, that's so great. Thank you so much. The enclosure, 200, what'd you say, 200 feet, 220 feet?
220 by 180.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And your goal is your goal to move all of your birds?
No, we won't move them all now. We'll move the ones that make sense, the ones that really need the land.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
And this aviary will also be educational. It will teach the history of conservation, ending up with pandemonium as being the new model for conservation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. It really is. Oh my goodness. Let me see. What else was I? And Anonymous with $1. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So again, if there's anybody new here that's stopping by, Michelle is with Pandemonium Aviaries. I know most of you have been here, but she's doing conservation of primarily birds from New Guinea and the Philippines, with a live species bank. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Live species bank. Okay, cool. So we've been talking about birds. Did you have I haven't spoken to you in a long time. I recently got my falconry license. I'm focused on birds of prey now. I took the internship this summer to check out the other side of birds, like parrots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've fallen in love with birds of prey. And it's weird because when I was younger, I was never interested in birds. It wasn't until I started working at a zoo that I've been working at, where I was like, wow, birds are so cool.
They're so cool.
Yeah, and ever since then, I've just been like psyched about birds. I've met so many cool people through it, and yeah, and they're so cool.
Thank you so much.
Kark with $5. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about or you want to mention about Pandemonium or about your story or anything?
Well, I you know what, I didn't start saving birds because I always loved birds, and I didn't start saving birds because I understood any of the issues. I really just responded to one hurt bird.
Yeah.
And you know, I used to joke that if it had been a hurt armadillo, saving armadillos.
You cut out right there. Could you repeat that?
I said I used to joke that if I'd found an armadillo, I would have been saving armadillos.
Yeah.
So I think that what I have learned is that, you know, the world is made up of a lot of big problems, but the big problems actually are made up of smaller problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm really sad about what's happening. Sad about what's happening in nature, sad about what's happening to animals. I mean, I heard a statistic a couple of days ago that in 1 year, 2/3 of all the species on Earth have been extinct. I mean, we're just like it's like this. I mean, it's the fifth extinction. It's really awful.
Yeah.
But I also decided a long time ago that the only way that I could really live and not be sad all the time was to every single day do something that I could do as an individual to make things better. I mean, I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what it was, but once I did find birds, and I did find that they needed help, I've given myself permission not to, because
Not to what was that? Sorry.
to feel sad all the time.
Right.
You know, I need my energy to be positive.
Right.
And there are needs everywhere. I think you can walk outside and just see whether it's a kid who needs help or you know, something that needs to be cleaned up or whatever. And I have found that the answer to my own life is that I just have to do what I can do, but I have to do it.
Right.
And I just think that these big problems that we're facing, if they were just broken down to little problems and people wanted to solve the little problems, that we might reverse this trend.
Yeah.
And it might just be as easy as just not buying so much stuff. You know, I mean, we just consume so much that just sort of maybe, I mean, there's so many things that each individual can do that I'm really grateful that I had this chance to be into this amazing world of birds. I mean, it was just a wonderful, wonderful world, but also to learn a lot. I mean, I just doing, and I had to meet people, and so I developed this community of friends who are also interested in birds, and it's been a wonderful life. And it's not been something that I had to get, you know, I did get schooling in it, but I didn't have to have a degree in it. I just had to be willing to just, you know, learn everything I could and do things I wasn't comfortable doing. And I wish more people had that experience.
Yeah.
You know? It's been great. I mean, it's been hard. I've done a lot of crying, but it's been great.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's kind of sounds a little corny.
No,
but
that was a great way to word that. I loved that. Yeah, the idea. I mean, we're all affected by, you know, by sad things like that. I mean, when I don't know if you saw there was a lot of stuff on social media about the Amazon fires.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, it's unbelievable. It is just unbelievable. It's so horrible.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. But yeah, I mean, what you said is, if there's something that makes you sad, the only thing that you can do is do something to make a difference, you know?
Exactly. That is the only antidote.
Right.
It's the only antidote. It's to actually take action.
Yeah.
And something, even if each of us can do something small. That's all we can. One individual, something small. But what power there is in everybody doing something small. You know, we're in this together. I actually had the pleasure of being at a conference, and there were some astronauts, and they were talking about being up in space. And one of them said, you know, I looked out that window, and what I saw Earth. I saw weather moving. I saw this electric around the Earth. And then I saw this thin blue line. That was the atmosphere of the Earth. And that's all that separated the Earth from space. And we have one planet. We just have one planet, and we're all on this together. This is our home.
Yeah.
And we're together. I mean, this is something that we all share. And, it'd be great if we could just work together. And if we can't work together, at least work individually to just take care of our home.
Yeah. Giddy tipped $50, Tar tipped $20, and Shiki tipped $50, which means we hit our $500 donation goal. We're actually at $528. Guys, thank you so much. Somebody in chat said something along the lines of birds aren't really my thing, but I hope everyone finds their bird in quotation marks, like you were saying, their inspiration to feel something and then do something about it. I think that was actually really nice.
I did too. So. That's exactly what I meant. That's exactly what I meant. It doesn't matter because they all matter. They all matter. I mean, it's not like one's better than the other. They all matter. And there's so many animals. There's so many people in trouble.
Joe Kid with $50. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's a really, really great. That was great. That was very inspiring. I liked that a lot.
Thanks, man.
Okay. I felt like there was something. We're at $578. You guys, that's insane. Thank you so much. And that's all going straight to Pandemonium.
Thank you.
And to the hundreds of birds that you have there, which is way more than I thought. I thought you were gonna say like 100 or something like that.
Yeah. No, just 4 times that, pretty much.
Really? Oh my goodness, that's a lot of birds.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so is there anything else that you want to share with the chat or chat? Any questions? They did actually. There was one question in chat. That's what I was forgetting. Somebody asked if you have a favorite species of bird. I know that's got to be a hard question for you.
Oh, that's a terrible question.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. I feel the same way.
So I actually have, if I have to, I mean, I can't pick out like a favorite bird, but if I had to pick out a favorite bird, we have a Lady Rostaraco who's pretty special, and Lady Rostaracos are from Africa, and they're the only birds that really
say
have.
That name one more time. Lady
Rostaraco.
Oh, Taraco. They have the biggest personalities.
They're amazing, and this bird, and we have another Taraco named Kenya in the same aviary, but Kenya she had been a victim of a pet store that had closed, and they just left her outside in a cage, and people came by and would give her food. She'd eat fruit, but she was basically abandoned.
Yeah.
And I got a call from somebody in Oregon asking me if I would take her, and I agreed. This woman drove her down to Oregon.
Yeah.
And this Kenya has always been afraid of people. She just doesn't like people. You put a hand out and she just goes the opposite end of the aviary.
Right.
But she really wants some of the treats that we give to Taracos. And so what this other Taraco will do is he'll take a blueberry from my hand and then he'll feed her.
Oh, how cool is that?
I think that's so cool.
That's so neat. This is the Taraco that I'm thinking. I'm thinking of the green ones. Do you know? Is there?
I do. There's plantain eaters. There's also we have Taraco.
Yeah, these are the ones that I think of when I think of Taraco. These green birds. Yeah, those are so cool, and they make really cool noises too. I'm terrible at making bird noises, but it's a cool noise if you guys want to look it up.
I'm terrible too, but they say hello to me and I have to say hello back. So it's ooh, 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 ooh.
That's actually pretty good. That actually sounds super familiar. No,
I mean, if they say hello to me, I need them to know that I acknowledge it.
Yeah, it. Right.
So I just repeat it back to them when I'm walking here. They go,
that's great.
People think I'm completely nuts, but it's
bird people are nuts. I've learned that, but in the best way possible. The people that I've met in the community of bird lovers are some of the most passionate people I've ever run into.
Yeah.
In my life, it's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking of incredible, guys, we're ending today at $578, which is insane. Thank you to everybody that donated. That is so cool.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
There is a card. I will send it to you. We had Citrus make a card, as always. I'm sending it to you in Discord right now.
Thank you.
It's a little thank you card. It's very, very sweet. I'll show it to you guys. Look at this. Look at this beautiful card. Citrus, thank you so much again for doing this. Says thank you, Michelle, for making a change. You have pictures of some of your birds in there.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Citrus, thank you. Those are absolutely wonderful. Yeah, Michelle, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on here and telling us about this. Good luck with the move. That's such exciting news for you and your birds. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Beekman, it was very nice to meet you. she is lovely, and her sounds are wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate you having her in the background. Yeah, of course.
Thanks to everybody for supporting us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right, bye.